Fnatic, followed by the Gragas for ROCCAT.
And that Gragas has really risen in priority, both as a top lane and a jungle pick. A lot of teams looking for engage out of the jungle role have been picking that up, so not full Fnatic, sOAZ or Broxah on this one.
Yeah, the Lee Sin's banned away as well. That is definitely something that you want to target at Broxah most of the time.
And this is because Maxlore's champion pool has been fairly versatile the last couple of weeks. When you look at it, he's played the Kha'Zix, the Rengar, all of these champions that are a little bit more focused on damage as opposed to crowd control effect. So interested to see where ROCCAT go from this with such high priority in the jungle.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big thing to keep an eye on, to see if Maxlore gets his hands on another damage-dealing heavy jungler, or if Broxah's the one that does it as well. There's the Shen ban away. That's been a pretty big one for teams all over the European LCS for some time now. But Fnatic, they have the first pick here. And will they take the Graves? They do.
So Graves taken as that farming jungler. I wonder whether we'll see Maxlore go towards the likes of the Kha'Zix or the Elise that's actually available. In our first series, Elise was taken off the board quite a lot. We might see Elise paired with an earlier game top laner. A lot of the top jungle duos we've talked to have talked a lot about that Renekton Elise synergy time and time again. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to take it here.
But there is another aggressive jungler. It might take a little longer than Elise to get up to speed. It is the Rengar locked in for Maxlore. So jungles have definitely been the priority for both teams.
Now Rengar was slightly adjusted when it comes to some of his sustain through the jungle. So we'll have to watch Maxlore through this one, as his early plays might be a little harder to pull off, especially up against a jungler that's very, very safe, farming up towards that level 6. So no priority yet on AD carries, which means the Varus, the Jhin from patches gone by are available. But everybody's been talking about the downfall of the lethality AD carries. Will we see any priority on them? As yet, not in this draft.
Not in this rotation. And it's a Ezreal lock-in for Rekkles, with all of those other AD carries up.
Well, Ezreal is Rekkles' third most played AD carry historically. This is a pick that is very comfortable for him.
It's iconic for the guy, but still.
And we've seen a lot of lanes like Jhin into Ezreal. Basically, this is a lane where no one should die. Theoretically now, you've got a Tahm Kench alongside that Jhin, so always will be safe, and Ezreal, as always, is a safe AD carry. But that's ROCCAT picking up their AD carry before everything gets banned away.
So we do see the Jhin once again now ban phase 2. It's Cassiopeia off the board. They hit the Rumble on the side of Fnatic. Let's see what ROCCAT's last ban's going to be.
With that Nautilus up in the top lane, potentially for Fnatic, wanting to take away a lane that can heavily push into him on the first couple of the waves of the game and actually puts pressure on Broxah. So taking that away, now no longer a factor. Orianna, banned out, is enabled for this week's play. Of course, last week was not, so it is another factor in that mid lane. Previous series, we did see Syndra pick up. Yeah,
still a possibility. Fnatic has a couple more seconds on the clock, and they opt to take out the Croc. Top lane focus for them. We'll see what Phaxi ends up picking up, but we'll probably see that one on the last rotation.
Well, now we're heavily pushed back into a tank setup in that top lane, and not only tank setup, this is where ROCCAT have succeeded in the last couple of weeks. Getting Betsy on one of the tankier mid laners, the Swains, the Vladimirs of the world. That's where Betsy has looked the most comfortable over the entire last year of play.
Oh yeah, and the guys played a lot of mid laners throughout this split already, but you go back to splits gone by when Vladimir was more of a meta choice, and it was definitely something he wanted to opt towards. So it's locked in this time. It's like Duke was saying in the interview just before we went to break that he thinks it's going to be top tier. So that's locked in. And now on the side of Fnatic, they take the Karma for Jesiz.
Now, with no top laner potentially locked in for either team, if they... no, actually, Karma is going to be in that support role, so it's mid lane Fnatic are looking on.
Unless
that.
They pull the switcheroo.
No, it puts Nautilus up into top side. I was lagging, brain lag.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us sometimes, stress.
Yeah, at this point, Fnatic looking for that mid lane pick. If they need something a little earlier now, a Syndra or something just to control the mid lane. Ooh, this is 7.5. LeBlanc has been heavily gutted off the damage from Distortion. So many pro players talking about how heavily this has been impacted. However, that is mostly the later damage on LeBlanc. We still have early damage set up for Fnatic. That's what they needed to maintain a mid lane that they can look to snowball from. We'll have to watch how that late game damage is affected later on.
Yep, and as the timer ticks down on the ROCCAT side, they lock the Kled for Phaxi. He's gone in a totally different direction. So this draft really got interesting towards the end.
So Kled normally does well into a lot of melee matchups. You can, of course, bully around a Nautilus somewhat. Not exactly the easiest laning phase to play out. And Phaxi, he has struggled here on this big stage, so looking forward to seeing what he can do on a very different pick here. This Kled is going to augment this entire ROCCAT lineup, looking for those fights. This is partly to get Betsy into the fight and on top of Fnatic, because look at the mobility Fnatic have to avoid this Vladimir in fights. Some pretty nuanced team fighting the later we go in this game, so a lot of things back and forth that is all on that execution.
And that is the question I wanted to ask you, Stress. How well will ROCCAT be able to execute that if it takes so much? Fnatic, I mean, if they can get out, slip out of the grasp, then they can turn a fight around, it seems.
Devin, if I could tell you that with full certainty, I would be playing the lottery in every single opportunity I could, because that is the name of the game. It's always a little bit unpredictable.
The good news is we get to find out real quick, so that's going to be good.
That's good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting in. This is the multicolored hairstyles now.
It's a whole, it's a whole spectrum too. We got the ref in the back as well. So, oh man, this is going to be real interesting. ROCCAT and Fnatic. ROCCAT have been on a big upswing with 2-0 on the last week. Fnatic on a downturn, but they are still the favorites. They are still Fnatic. Let's see if they can take a victory here with the nerf LeBlanc in the mid lane. If you guys think so, hop on Twitter. Hashtag FNC win. There's always a lot of fans coming out for that one, but if you believe in ROCCAT, well, you know what to do. Hashtag ROC win. Let's find it out. We're on to the Rift. Game number 1.
Game 1, and it's already throwing us some surprises for 7.5. The general buzz was LeBlanc was gone. No longer did you have to worry.
Everybody said that.
But again, it's mostly the later game focus that has been taken away from LeBlanc. So, or I guess you never really were focusing late game on LeBlanc. Just some of that power got reduced.
So, if the later stages of the game are even worse for LeBlanc, who was kind of a snowball-y early and mid-game champion to begin with, what does this do for Fnatic if the game does not get controlled by them early on, or if they don't really find a way to shut down especially this Vlad early on?
I mean, the good thing for Fnatic is that later game they will have Rekkles on this Ezreal. We talked about how comfortable that is. And Ezreal is a difficult target for a Vladimir to actually get on top of, lock down, and take out. So there is that emphasis that Fnatic will have on protecting Rekkles in the fights. Of course, Nautilus helps out with that too.
Yeah. Speaking of the Nautilus, the top lane matchup is certainly an interesting one. sOAZ on, you know, your typical tank, what we've seen in the past already, but Phaxi opting for this Kled. It has sometimes emerged. It is not always successful. A very nuanced champion that's hard to pull off, but, you know, Phaxi, very inexperienced player on this stage compared to sOAZ especially.
Yeah.
He's taking a big gamble here.
Interested to see how this Kled works out, as you said.
That's how you quantify it.
It's that's quantified it straight away. That's sOAZ with 240 extra games played.
That's quite a bit of experience. Guy's been around a while.
And he gets to play Nautilus. Woo! Gets to press E, auto some minions in lane, push it out, and try and avoid fights at all costs.
Hey, man, that's my definition of a good Thursday afternoon.
It's not exactly the most active Thursday for you.
I am a tank top player sometimes. I spam the Shen. All right, let's see how this game goes as it gets underway. Back into the bot lane. Let's see how aggressive Hjarnan and Wadid can get on Jesiz and Rekkles. Sends out the Mantra Q. Hjarnan has to take a step back. And he carries. Definitely not had the easiest time of it in Season 7, but this patch aims to change a little bit of that. Lethality not as big as it once was. Boot start, too, for Hjarnan.
Yeah, we've seen that quite commonly now. Ooh, Maxlore doesn't want to join a very select few individuals in the last week or so that have died to jungle camps.
No Krugs can stop him.
But that is a little bit of this impact that gray health versus minions and monsters has taken a hit. That's what Rengar had nerfed on 7.5. Was reduced a bit, makes it a little less safe on the clear. Broxah is invading on that blue buff though, so this is where Maxlore is getting punished. He's done a clear that is fairly common in LCK, where you do one half of the jungle, recall, and what Broxah's done here is try to punish that by actually going in, invading on the blue buff after starting Raptors and Red himself. And this is where it can get punished. These slower clears where you recall and end up taking that stop point after your first buff.
Yeah, he could find out he's not able to get a whole lot in his own jungle heading into that blue camp, realizes it's taken. He's spotted on the ward too by Broxah, so great start for Fnatic as they know exactly what's going on in that jungle.
And that's just confirmation, right? The fact that Maxlore wasn't in that jungle and Broxah didn't have to fight against him, they already knew Maxlore had done that type of pathing, but now you get full vision on him. on that wolf camp. Maxlore doesn't have a whole lot of options. They know he's likely going to go towards top Scuttle Crab because there's no Scuttle Crab on the bottom side after Broxah had taken that one too. So Maxlore, they know exactly where he is for the next couple of minutes here unless he's in a lane. But you see, there's no way of ganking that LeBlanc. No real way onto a Nautilus this early on under tower. The only place he could have been going is bot, and they know he was pathing away from that.
Yeah, he's waiting for now as Caps had path forward a little bit. Meanwhile, down in the bottom, Wadid swallows up Hjarnan to get him out of harm's way, and now Phaxi's actually going on an invade here. Let's see if they can grab the blue buff back for themselves. Maxlore's enlisted his help, and it's uncontested for now as Broxah had gone back.
It's important that Phaxi joined this invade so early on. Broxah may still be able to get
they're giving it up. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Has his smite available, whereas Maxlore did not. So despite a two-man invade from ROCCAT, Fnatic calm under pressure. You can see Caps now is able to move slightly out of lane. Just come up to where Broxah was in place, and ROCCAT end up getting not much more from that play.
Yeah, Maxlore, report him for assisting enemy team.
Not quite on this one, as you see Broxah even go in and get the Raptors. We've heard for weeks how much experience those Raptors give away. Well, look at the champion indicators on the left and right of your screen. Broxah level 5, Maxlore level 3.
It's rough for the Rengar right now. Broxah should definitely be able to have a bigger impact early on. And speaking of impact, sOAZ up top, he's actually opted in for some more early damage. It's been a while since I've seen Lord of the Rings, but it starts like that.
sOAZ just wants to get as much AP in this early game, and you know, the ability to just take these early trades. That's the problem playing up against the Kled, is when he gets that high attack speed, he kind of grabs you and whittles you down over time. sOAZ is going, okay, I just want push power, I just want mana, just give me everything to survive this next few minutes and I'll be fine.
Phaxi's still trying to push him back. Has that CS advantage, but as expected with the favorable top lane matchup. Broxah focusing meanwhile, getting vision on the bottom side. The ward's already placed and he has the Scuttle Crab as well. Where did Fnatic look to break out here? We talked about Caps trying to get ahead early on this LeBlanc. It hasn't really panned out. In fact, Betsy's the one who's rocking that lead, but Broxah, he's heading down bottom.
Right, as Broxah's going in on the bot lane.
Okay, exhaust on both sides. Wadid is going to get his gray health, and the heal comes up. He flashes away, but Rekkles follows. Oh. Doesn't have the damage.
Did Rekkles cancel an auto there by the looks of it? It looked like he was throwing the auto out, but ended up not catching it. Didn't have the damage. A lot of summoners were used by both teams. They do, however, now obviously put a lot of pressure down onto ROCCAT. Fnatic had the lead in the bot lane already.
Oh man, yeah, Broxah invested pretty heavily to try to get that there. Didn't end up happening, so game stays fairly even. Just a couple of 100 gold separating the two teams, and well, ROCCAT can breathe a sigh of relief even though they're out of summoners for a little while.
For now, at least. ROCCAT have been struggling under the push pressure of this Ezreal, this Karma. It's the Karma that actually allows so much of this pushing in the lane. As Fnatic, they've stabilized quite well in this early game now.
Yeah, they have. That's for sure. We'll see how it goes for them for now. And let's check back in with the mid laners, because we talked about Caps needing to get ahead early. He has picked up some of that farm as well. And, you know, he is a player, came in pretty hyped on the split. But I feel like, in all honesty, it's Betsy that's been showing more consistency the last several weeks.
I think that's a very interesting discussion, right? Is that Caps in his first couple of weeks here was outplaying perks. He was being a flashy player. That Fnatic were utilizing everything in his kit. That it looked great. It looked like Fnatic maybe they'd found their new Febiven that everybody was talking about. But it has been a quiet couple of weeks out of Caps. I think they're settling into a role where it's less all about Caps carrying alone and more team-oriented, whereas on the side of ROCCAT, it's always been that way with Betsy. It's always been team-focused. It's always been the Ryze, the Vlad, the Swain, these big picks that can buy time for his AD carry.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about experience gap, and it really is the one place where it's really the opposite for ROCCAT versus Fnatic, because Betsy has been around for some time. It may not be the biggest name throughout the European LCS, but he has been fairly consistent in some cases. Let's see, Maxlore is getting contested, but he has not got the help.
That's a level 6 Graves, too.
Okay, curtain call's opened, and that's a collateral damage for first blood. Broxah is going to walk away with everything. He even tanks the curtain call.
I think Maxlore was expecting ROCCAT to react faster. Oh, Broxah.
Boy. Yep, that. Some days you weren't expecting it. You just get swallowed up by a big catfish.
Double buff on Jhin. That's like Fnatic. kind of catch one that ROCCAT give them, and then the help comes just too late, but ends up taking down the kill. Bit of a messy invade out of Broxah. Ends up being okay for himself getting the kill from that, but overall not exactly the cleanest play.
Oh, it gives Hjarnan a pretty big kill and double buffs to boot, as you mentioned, so ROCCAT's bottom lane will definitely be pretty happy about that one. Betsy going fairly deep into this tower range. He gets stopped up by the chains, has to pool. Caps is really low though, has flashed Ignite. Betsy already used his Ignite, that is.
So LeBlanc lost a lot of damage from the W, the distortion, at all ranks actually. It was exponentially a greater loss throughout ranking up, but it's a significant amount. Still nerfs. Caps maxing the Q, Shadow Orb, which did get a little bit of extra damage to minions. Doesn't offset the fact you want to kill champions, but aids in the push power. You can see there was no real help for Broxah on this one. Mid was pushed in, bot was pushed in, but Maxlore goes in too early, ahead of the rest of the ROCCAT team. And you can see how clean the second half of this play theoretically should be for ROCCAT, right? Is look, they're going in, they got Broxah alone, they know he's there. And Broxah doesn't get over the wall. Yep, ROCCAT clean it up, but really Maxlore should have waited just a little longer.
Stayed a little too long. Ooh, that was a long hook from sOAZ up top. Phaxi's got to be careful.
Yep.
To bust out the pocket pistol to back his way up. And
Broxah's coming though. He's got ult again.
He's got chance. Looks like it. There's the smoke screen flashed away. Broxah, does he have the dash just yet? Doesn't look like it. There's one shot. There's the ultimate, and Broxah cleans up.
Broxah's Graves. It's that first pick of the game. We were talking about how much presence in the pick ban phase was on the junglers. Could they upset Fnatic's jungle matchup enough? Well, this game has been all about Broxah early on. Getting that blue camp away from Maxlore, ending up now with 2 kills, denying any of the experience in response. And Fnatic has been all about that push game. You get the Graves, you push with the Nautilus, triple door and Zayds on that push. You push up to the tower, take it down. Fnatic looking good.
Yep, they invested early in some jewelry and it definitely paid off. The push as well. ROCCAT gonna have to respond down on the bottom side, but it's just a little too little, a little too late. Fnatic in the lead at 11 minutes into this game. Let's see where they can take it from here. Jesiz coming down to try and push ROCCAT off the tower, so they won't even get it.
Yeah, I mean, Rekkles has thrown his ultimate at it, I think, earlier on at the wave when it was slightly larger. It chunked the wave out enough, cleared it down, and Fnatic are able to get that in time. This Ezreal, this Karma has been difficult for ROCCAT to do anything against. The double buffs allowed ROCCAT a little bit more comfort in that lane, but didn't really have a massive impact. Still, the CS lead is in favor of Fnatic, and now ROCCAT are recalling away. Gives Fnatic the opportunity to go Dragon, to go bot tower, whichever they choose. Yeah, important that this comfortable pick for Rekkles is definitely paying off right now. They've been hanging pretty tough in the bottom lane, even with Hjarnan picking up that 1 kill onto Broxah earlier on in the game. It's still looking good for this team, and even though Fnatic, always should be a favorite, with the way that ROCCAT have been playing most of this split, there was some hope for this team coming in, and right now, they're definitely getting outplayed. Yeah, for now they are. Oh, there's the Abyssal Voyage into the lane. They're just trying to slow down Fnatic here.
Oh, there's a teleport, so as he wants this one, and in comes Phaxi.
Phaxi TP'd in behind. Phaxi went right back out of this fight.
Maxlore's coming, though. Is this the big bait right now? They've got 1 shot of the curtain call, 2 on sOAZ. Leash is on. They find Rekkles on the 3rd, but that's it, and it's a abort mission for ROCCAT.
Yeah, ROCCAT just back away. They will inevitably lose this tower here. They cannot fight Fnatic bot lane. Hook does land.
They've got it onto Phaxi, and there's the depth charge. There's the knock-up, and they find some more. Skarl goes scurrying back, and Hjarnan's on the front line now to try and push them back. Fnatic find 2 towers now.
But now watch Fnatic move through the bot side of the map. Drop vision behind them and ensure any kind of play over the next few minutes here. You can see them tracking up through the river, looking towards mid lane. It's not about killing Betsy here, it's about shoving him back and creating space. If that hook had landed, they probably would have thought about it. But you've always got to be careful against that Vlad. Of course, Hemo play, going to give him a lot of health back. His kit just generally makes him a tricky one to take down.
Yeah, he is slippery and sustaining all across the board, but if they don't have to kill him, they can just get the towers. Let's take a look at that play. I was about to say up top, but clearly not the case. We're back into the game.
Not for now. We're back to the action.
That was some replay.
It's okay. We'll focus in on how ROCCAT can react here. They've lost bot tower, they've lost top tower. Their wave clear is kind of lacking. as well. They've got the Jhin ultimate if they really have to use that to wave clear. You've got Jhin, throw out the traps. Problem is, if you get caught by somebody like a Nautilus coming in through the side, that's really the only way Fnatic can get that setup. It is possible for Fnatic to get in and out with this LeBlanc before the fight is able to be turned around by ROCCAT. There's a couple of moments where we might see that happen.
Oh, Betsy's going to get chained up. There's a second one, and he's going to walk out of it this time. But for this ROCCAT squad, it does seem like the hope is always not just on Betsy, but also on that AD carry. Hjarnan has been playing honestly pretty solid for his team. He might be somebody who dies quite a lot, but he gets in the mix. He's never afraid to really try to make the big plays, and he gets a lot of damage as a result.
Yeah, it's you can see their damage per minute for AD carries. The highest. Damage percent, the highest. Deaths, second highest. It's not always great for Hjarnan when it comes to him being focused down, but you can't really understate his impact when he gets given time. A lot of that is because ROCCAT at times will build around Hjarnan, right? Although this isn't that much of a protection comp out of Tahm Kench, Vlad creates a big distraction. Swain, when they've played it, creates a massive distraction and buys so much time from Hjarnan. It's that imposing threat that buys the AD carry so much time to put out that kind of damage in team fights.
Yeah, and let's not forget too, Hjarnan was a name that kind of disappeared from the LCS later last year when he took a break, but before that, he was a guy who was making champions like Sivir into a hyper carry. He was dishing out huge damage, and now let's see if he can do it again. Phaxi goes in on a charge. They've got sOAZ, in comes Maxlore. They open up the curtain call, but they've got to flash out. Maxlore gets knocked up and bopped up. Betsy trying to go in, but they couldn't find the angle.
But look at how composed it is out of Fnatic. Caps clears out the bot lane. Now he's coming up towards the mid lane. Doesn't really need to commit to anything. Fnatic don't throw too much more than a couple of summoners and an ultimate out. I like what ROCCAT were trying to do, though. I like the attempted engage here. If you can get on somebody like Rekkles or Broxah. But we talked about that in Champion Select. It's so difficult. You're against Ezreal, you're against LeBlanc, you're against Graves. Good luck locking them down with trying to run in head first. Yeah, exactly.
Speed boosts, you know, all over the place. And even if you catch somebody, guess who it's probably going to be?
Realistically, the only way of setting up a fight where you actually can catch out somebody like Rekkles is by a perfect Abyssal Voyage in behind them when Ezreal has nowhere to go. If the only place he can go is back and there's a Tahm Kench behind him, that's your perfect setup. But that's so difficult to do because that relies on Fnatic making mistakes. It relies on Fnatic not warding properly and being in risky situations, which, at least so far in this game, they haven't really tended to do.
Yeah, a couple individual mistakes and really nothing aside from that. But another thing we talked about that was also risky in picks and bans is this Kled pickup for Phaxi and how he can really be a big fight enabler. How can they really use him a little bit better? We saw that attempt earlier on mid, but what else could they do other than the Tahm Kench dive in the back?
It's difficult, right? Because, as we're saying, like, head-on team fights aren't exactly going to work. It's more about, like, can Betsy actually get there? He's got Proto Belt, he's got Flash, he's got Kled ult, he's got a Tahm Kench if he wants it. But utilizing that Kled alone isn't going to be enough. Abyssal Voyage coming up to the top side here against sOAZ, but look, they haven't boxed him in. Now Maxlore's coming around the side, but Broxah's already coming alongside him here. Actually, they're looking for mid tower instead. I like this play out of both teams. ROCCAT are trying to make a proactive play, trying to catch out sOAZ, get whatever gold they can, but Fnatic, instant response in the mid lane. Sack the tower, get mid tower instead.
Tower's not even going to go down. sOAZ gets found out there, and Betsy, meanwhile, is in mid. Hemo Plague on 2. He's locked up under tower, and the timing on the ult from Broxah secures him a third kill.
Broxah with a fadeaway shot.
We're not
is
done
able
yet
to pick it up. Phaxi now in trouble.
Yeah, he went in for a charge. The team wasn't at his flank there, and unfortunately, he's going to have to get swallowed up by Wadid. Scarled already ran for the hills. And now it looks like it might be a third tower for Fnatic as they eyeball this mid.
I like what ROCCAT tried, though. It's the sign of some sense a team that is not willing to go down without a fight, and that's the problem. Is ROCCAT, we're talking about, oh, we're just going to stick to our guns, we're just going to, you know, not make any big changes. I like that they're attempting plays at the same time. The problem is Fnatic had the map, the position on the map. They have a strong composition with this Graves as well for reacting to positioning errors out of ROCCAT, and you can see Betsy Not expecting the Ignite to come down. Thought he would get a lot more healing than that, and Broxah is enough to clean up the tail end of that pick. And then ROCCAT ultimately end up going down. Betsy, you can see frustration. This Vlad needs more time to get into this game.
Yep, still only sitting on the Proto Belt, working his way towards an Abyssal Scepter, and that's rough. Caps, he may not have been exactly shutting down the Vlad, but he's stayed even pace enough with him. And in all honesty, Broxah has been the one that's been cleaning up these kills. It's working well for him now that he's got the Black Cleaver as well. That damage is starting to get pretty hefty on the Graves.
Yeah, it's difficult to deal with. And as you said, like, Caps really being behind is a rough place to be on CS. Betsy obviously will scale heavier. Waiting to see exactly how Fnatic respond next. 3 out of towers are down. This is always that sticking point in the game where the next objective is significantly harder. And for Fnatic, you haven't really got side lane control too much longer. I do want to see whether Phaxi can actually deal with sOAZ now that we're later on in this game. sOAZ did delay his initial itemization with that triple Doran's build, whereas Phaxi is a little ahead on CS. Interested to see if they match up against each other now.
Yeah. See if it's the battle of the split push there. I feel like Caps can definitely try to make some side plays on LeBlanc. And if you're Fnatic right now, Stress, where do you want to send your LeBlanc that hasn't really gotten a huge snowball off?
Not into anywhere too treacherous is the real thing here. Fnatic are going to move as a unit, and this is what I like. It's not necessarily about the LeBlanc alone. It's what does LeBlanc plus the rest of the team offer, and it's a flank on Betsy.
He had no idea this one was coming, and no pool is going to get you out of harm's way there. Jumping on him, it's Caps that picks the kill up.
Early on, there's no real healing thanks to that Morellonomicon. They chunk Betsy low again. Didn't matter about the Ignite being down this time because the Grievous Wounds was enough. And Fnatic punishing ROCCAT for trying to play this Vlad from mid lane. It wasn't exactly a snowballed LeBlanc that does it, but a good enough play out of Fnatic. They want to continue here. They know Kled is in the bot lane. They're going to sacrifice their bot tower on the next minion wave, but Fnatic are looking for an inhibitor tower.
It's the same thing we saw them do earlier on in the game. They just throw their weight around, forcing onto a tower with ROCCAT unable to respond. The hook does not land onto Hjarnan right now, but they've already got this tower down below half health.
At this point, though, Betsy's back up. Phaxi has recall. They don't know exactly where he is on the map, so Fnatic going to back themselves away. Both teams not overextending here. Fnatic had pushed in. ROCCAT had an answer. Betsy could have maybe got in there. There's the Kled ult actually coming through. That's a wild ride.
Oh, he's going real far in here, but he doesn't find anybody on the side of Fnatic, hoping they were maybe trying to rush a risky Baron. 21.5 minutes in, that's not the case. Fnatic went back to spend that hard-earned gold.
Yeah, they weren't able to catch anybody before they recalled either. So ROCCAT throwing that large ultimate, that movement speed boost to try and get in there. They even used the On the Hunt as well, or the Thrill of the Hunt, excuse me, the Rengar ultimate. Try and find him.
Yeah, and all that, and they had a blue trinket to check the pit as well, to see if, or just outside of it, to see if Fnatic hadn't recalled. It seems like ROCCAT, honestly, getting a little hasty with trying to react to Fnatic's plays, and they're just behind.
They were trying to catch a straggler there. Like, if half the team has started their recall early, and you get there and you catch like a support or somebody that is a little late on the recall, you can do enough damage to maybe then look to rush down the Baron or something like that for ROCCAT side of things. But Fnatic had all escaped, and now they're turning their attention to mid tower. This has been a clean mid game out of Fnatic. Pick into taking a tower, recall, reset vision, take another tower while ROCCAT can't really respond.
And they keep on banking up the items. You can see the damage that Caps is able to dish, even on that nerfed LeBlanc right now. He's looking, see if he wanted to pick anyone else off. Not going to happen, but Fnatic have 5 towers to the 1 of ROCCAT. It's telling in the gold game right now. Some of those kills also helping out, but ROCCAT are trying to react quickly. Big Hemo Plague, Betsy on the front line. Is it going to be enough? The curtain call is all spent, and they haven't found a kill just yet. Looking for Broxah. He's got the damage. Caps jumps in. Caps jumps out. Phaxi's have to back away. Eaten up by Wadid, and they don't find a kill on either side.
And ROCCAT throws so much at that Fnatic, ultimately able to position from mid to bot and get away with their lives. Broxah is out as well. If they go for the dragon here, they know that Kled had to recall. There is a TP ward available if they want to come in for ROCCAT, but look at it. A lot of the ultimates are down. ROCCAT can't really afford to take a fight on the ultimate stance, but look how low Fnatic are. They want to bring Kled in through the lane. They have the Wild Ride available.
It's a dangerous dragon take, but Fnatic have secured it. Now, can they survive? It's on to Rekkles, goes Phaxi, sOAZ, and Jesiz caught in the back right now, but they're tanking enough to survive the burst. Maxlore hops in, can't get the jump onto Rekkles. He's walking away inch by inch. Hjarnan can't get him. It's a heal, but Wadid picks up sOAZ at the same time. There goes Hjarnan with a flourish, and Wadid to the back line, flashing back away. ROCCAT have picked up 2.
Yeah, they pick up 2, and critically, they're able to find sOAZ and Rekkles in that fight, and that was enough for them to be able to continue on and try and push a little more from this. ROCCAT eventually getting this fight to work from them, but you could see how much of a stretch it took.
Question for you then, Stress. Was that worth it for Fnatic to get that Mountain Drake?
Oh, I mean, ultimately, yes, they didn't give away too much from ROCCAT. They got mid-tower from it as well. Now they also have teleport advantage. They used a lot of summoners out of ROCCAT as well, but Fnatic, it was a risky play overall. I don't think you can conclusively say that absolutely, yes, it's going to be the most beneficial play for Fnatic in the end, but look at how much Phaxi had to throw at Rekkles to end up getting this kill here. It was only the fact that Hjarnan ended up getting a W off and connecting on it. Rekkles, for having no mana, couldn't quite dodge out of it in time, and it was enough for ROCCAT to take that fight.
I was like you said, too. This is so hard for them to catch anyone on Fnatic, and yeah, that fight, it was...
It's interesting. It's interesting. You could look at this damage graph and be like, wow, Fnatic smashed that team fight. And then you learn that Fnatic were the ones that lost 2 members from that fight, and ROCCAT ended up, at least on the kill trade, coming out ahead.
Math doesn't check out, Stress. I never trust it, though. Not on broadcast.
Not if it's math that I've done. Never trust that.
Fair enough. All right. Wadid's keeping Betsy alive this time around. Still needs some time for him to scale up. He's got the Abyssal Scepter. But I'm a little bit skeptical that he can stay alive in a lot of those fights. Betsy has been having a little bit of a hard time.
Well, so much of it is the ability for Fnatic to cut through the healing that Betsy has now. We've opened up the curtain call once again.
Can ROCCAT cut through the
not really doing
front
too
line
much
of
damage?
Fnatic? I don't think so.
Not doing a lot of damage at this point on that curtain call. Hjarnan has gone the Infinity Edge build that we started seeing Jhin's move towards ever since the Edge of Night, and that kind of got adjusted on its viability. Jhin did receive some indirect heavy nerfs over the last 2 patches. The changes to Deathfire Touch really, affect some of that lasting damage off the ult hits.
Yep. Phaxi's caught up. There's a leash on him now, and Fnatic, they look to tag in. No, they're not going to do it because Maxlore is right around the backside. Phaxi was making himself look tasty. Not sure if that was intentional.
Rengar ult down. Phaxi was trying to start a fight there. Caps was up in the top lane. But you can see has both summoners available. Ooh, Fnatic.
Here we go.
They knew there was no vision at first.
7,000 and a half.
Blue Trinket gets cancelled out thanks to the control ward. Throw more wards in.
Caps is around the side, but ROCCAT, they're going to sidestep him entirely.
They
turn for the fight. Finding Betsy eaten up by Wadid. Looks like that Baron attempt is foiled. It's going to reset.
Resets. ROCCAT slow down the push. Look at the bottom side. This big wave of minions stacking up in Fnatic's favor already. They know that if anybody from ROCCAT recalls, there's no teleport available, and that would force the fight. Phaxi does have to be careful, and Caps looking around the side for an engage. Has to use distortion to get away from the trap.
Yeah, it's not going to go in on this one. So it will be an engage stalled out, but Fnatic are content with it as they have pushing waves on the top and on the bottom. They might be able to go right back and start this Baron once again. Phaxi's got TP if he's able to get back to base.
30 seconds on that TP until it is available for Phaxi. So there is still a period of time where Fnatic can move back to the Baron, and that's what they've done. They've started it off. They knew that Phaxi at least had recalled away from the area. And Fnatic, they're going to rush it down, or at least try to.
Okay, the curtain call's open once again. It's still tickling Fnatic, but it's enough to scare them away.
They should get bot tower from this. You can see how low it is on the minimap icon. Will it actually fall, as Phaxi has got that just in time? Yeah, it won't quite go down.
Ooh, he clears for the minions just in time. Still, that's a big chunk of damage in Fnatic's favor. It does seem like they've really been controlling this game. As soon as it hit the mid-game phase, they've been the ones running ROCCAT ragged around the map, and now they just keep focusing on this Baron and letting their waves push up in the side lanes.
And you can see exactly the focus from this Fnatic lineup on, let's just make sure everybody survives through team fights, because that's a locket of the Iron Solari second item. Top lane out of sOAZ. This is about his team getting that shield on multiple people. You got that redemption coming through. You've already got a Karma.
Yeah, you got tankiness pretty much across the board right now too. Other than Caps and Rekkles, Broxah has a Sterix gauge completed. You can see that the curtain calls haven't been affecting him too much either. There's another Mountain Dragon coming up in a minute. Fnatic could be pretty happy with this if they can take it.
So Caps just used the distortion to force Phaxi away from the bot lane. Caps used that global, not distortion, sorry, mimic on the bot lane to fake the fact that he was there. Now he shows in mid lane against Maxlore, and it actually pulled Phaxi away from the fight. Look, now sOAZ is coming up to mid lane, so Phaxi has to decide, does he sit in bot and get the tower and risk his team getting engaged on, or does he follow suit and come up to the mid lane as well? Very rare that we actually catch a glimpse of those LeBlanc ults being used, but Caps trying to get in the mind of ROCCAT.
Yeah.
And look, Phaxi's going back bot lane again. Now they try and force the fight. Phaxi's got to decide, does he stay bot? They've just seen him on a ward. This is, you know, interesting out of Phaxi. He's been up to mid, back down. Look at how low that tower is. He can walk in and get that, even without minion help. But Fnatic are committing to the Baron. Phaxi hasn't made a move yet. There's the shield coming out from sOAZ. You can see they just absorb all the damage from the Baron, reset, and go again.
Yeah, and they burned Hjarnan's ultimate already. Phaxi still hadn't taken that tower. He finally will knock it down. Let's see if he goes for it and continues to push, or if they'll TP in. ROCCAT are trying to bait Fnatic off this one. There's the TP. Caps did take a chunk, and that will be enough to get them to back off, it looks like, but will they force the fight again? Phaxi finishes his TP. The hook lands on him, and Baron's still in the mix right now. sOAZ going low. A double redemption now, and it's Betsy going for Rekkles. Can't find him as he flashes out of the fight. Caps is exhausted, but he goes back out. He goes back in. Maxlore can't finish him as Betsy gets sOAZ. This is a fight on several fronts. Rekkles back to the safety of his tower. Fnatic are melting, though, as Broxah has to flash away. That's ROCCAT clearing up 3.
Fnatic commit to Baron 2 to 3 times over the course of like a minute there and end up losing health, taking an awkward fight where Betsy finally gets his way into the fight. Phaxi
he didn't have enough help for that. Okay, Baron OP this game. He's going to give his life just to get a little extra damage, but there's no way Fnatic can test this right now.
That was significant. I mean, yeah, you're right. Rekkles can't even get in there and do enough. That is fairly significant that Phaxi dies there, because he would have loved to have that Baron buff out on that side lane. But that's frustrating for ROCCAT. But nevertheless, they come out ahead.
Yeah, they definitely played the fight well in this time.
Look at how Betsy gets in, though. And already Fnatic are a little split here. Rekkles and Caps are stacked on top of each other, and as Betsy flashes, Proto Belt, everything to try and get as much damage as he can down onto Rekkles. That's the whole aim here. If they can get that damage threat down, then Rekkles is left alone. The rest of the team are already dead and cannot do anything to help Rekkles get out of this situation. ROCCAT finally finding a good fight for themselves.
Yeah, they definitely did. And Fnatic, they found a consolation prize, picking themselves up a Mountain Drake in the back of it, and you can see the big damage coming out of Betsy. He started to come online, got in there, mixed it up early on. He even forced Caps out before he had a chance to use his Ignite in the fight. And honestly, you give him the A+, other than the fact that maybe at the end of it, Phaxi decided that he took execution to a different level.
Bit of an oopsie.
Yeah, ROCCAT are able to knock down towers, though, so it's nice for them. They get an outer in the top side. They have a big minion wave pushing. They can 1-3-1 for a little while, and you know, honestly, how far can they take this? Let's see.
They have the gold lead. It's in ROCCAT's favor right now, and you look at it, Vlad later on gonna do a lot more than this LeBlanc would. That was one worry we had on picking LeBlanc. I mean, just generally, and then 7.5 nerfs to her ability to pick people off throughout the game as well, so.
One of the biggest surprises in the pick and ban phase for sure. Caps will spit Hjarnan back out, or excuse me, Wadid, as Caps has to distort out. Here's the curtain call once again. Let's see if he can do enough damage this time. Just wrecking through the shields. Not enough as Betsy keeps sOAZ occupied for the time being. He takes more damage than he's really able to dish back out.
sOAZ occupying Betsy at this point. Betsy's the one they need to really deal the damage. Now he's dropping low.
Get the knock up onto Wadid, but they can't do much more as the redemption comes in. There's another one for ROCCAT, and Phaxi goes in for a wild ride that results in a kill onto Rekkles, and now they keep on chasing. sOAZ locked up. He might be tanky, but not tanky enough. Broxah, his ultimate's just not doing enough damage, and Hjarnan, he's finishing the job. Proto Belt forward. Can they get him? It's a double kill for the Jhin.
ROCCAT are playing the same style again. Beware Betsy's tank mid laners. You can't afford to take your focus off him because he'll jump right into the back line and deal so much damage. Wadid, they're going bot lane. Nice play out of ROCCAT. They're taking bot inhib instead of the mid inner.
Oh, they're swinging the gold huge right now. ROCCAT have really amped the pace up, and while the Fnatic members are still waiting on Fountain to respawn, they're going to knock down an inhibitor.
It's inhib and out here for ROCCAT. They're not overstaying their welcome. They have put this game at a stage that ROCCAT are in control to win this game in game 1 against Fnatic. ROCCAT right now, if they play this out safely, they have a Vlad that is scaled heavily into the late game. They have a 5-0-3 Jhin that is ahead of the curve. And at this point, Betsy and sOAZ going toe-to-toe. Wadid is the one that gets ulted by sOAZ here, and then from there, Phaxi in from the side finds his route right onto Rekkles after Rekkles had taken damage from the rest of ROCCAT, and Fnatic had just split up. They've been splintered throughout their entire jungle, and it's an easy fight for ROCCAT. This is basically what we were seeing Vitality do in our last series against Origin, where you get to this stage and you just group and you win.
So far, looking good for them, and this is so huge for ROCCAT right now. Despite the fact that Fnatic had been struggling in recent weeks, they still are several games ahead of ROCCAT in the standings. But if ROCCAT can win a game here, riding the momentum from the previous week, if they can close out a series, dare we say, it's looking so good for this team to not only avoid the relegation zone, but maybe, just maybe, they can still eyeball playoffs.
Not over yet for Fnatic. Oh, they caught Betsy. This is the play they need.
Okay, does the caster curse strike? It's Betsy getting out of harm's way, it looks like. So all the effort from sOAZ doesn't result in the kill just yet.
It slows down the ROCCAT engage, and anytime they find Betsy, that's what Fnatic are looking for.
Ooh,
now Phaxi jumps right back in.
He did not have anyone at the back there. Maxlore says, hey, wait a minute, buddy. I don't know if you wanted to do that. Rekkles takes him down.
2 oopsies out of Phaxi in this game. The second may be more costly than the first. Look at how low that top inhibitor tower is, and look at how long the death timer is on Phaxi. 40 seconds for ROCCAT to get up to that top lane.
Yes, but there is a big mini wave pushing in the bottom side, courtesy of Maxlore that marched it there, and there's no inhibitor. Fnatic have realized, oh, hold on, we maybe need to clean up house for a minute.
Yeah, the call just came through. The play that they have to be careful of is if ROCCAT stalled long enough, Phaxi being back available with teleport and so many wards being behind Fnatic would lead to near certain death for the Fnatic lineup. So they play on the cautious side of things, clear out the bot lane. Uh-oh, hang on, Caps.
Maybe not.
Caps, they've got to be careful because that's an Abyssal Voyage on top of him. ROCCAT looking to start exactly where they left off. Now they want top tower.
Yeah, they didn't waste any time, and with Phaxi coming back up, he has teleport available for him. Yeah, Fnatic managed to save themselves an Nexus turret, but they will not be able to save this tower up in the top. ROCCAT, they don't have the biggest wave clear, but they should be able to finish the job before Fnatic can really mobilize and respond. A couple more shots would do it. Actually, ROCCAT have gotten cold feet. They back off.
Things had been looking so good for Fnatic up until that Baron dance, where they started, stop it, started, stop it, started. Phaxi takes the tower, teleports in. They crush the fight for ROCCAT's side of things. And ever since, Fnatic have not really been able to react, and ROCCAT have been looking like the team that, I mean, they look like they've been in control the entire game the way that they're playing at the end of this one, but that hasn't been the case. Fnatic had looked so good early on.
Yeah, but it takes 2 to tango, and ROCCAT really, kudos to them, taking advantage of the situation. Now, Fnatic, what is their game plan from here? The Elder Dragon is spawning soon. They're the ones that have had all the Drakes this game.
Yeah.
Is that their ticket back into this game?
2 mountains and a cloud are nice for objective taking, but it's not the objective taking that Fnatic have to be worried with. It's the fights against ROCCAT. They have to shut Betsy down. They have to basically use like exhaust, ignite, everything on this Vladimir until they kill him, and they get him now.
Oh, Betsy, no, he's got himself a redemption, and he's got out of there, but Nautilus ult knocks him up. Caps finishes the job. Now, can ROCCAT respond in time? Curtain call, ticking away. Caps has got out of harm's way.
Importantly now for Fnatic, 30 seconds on this Baron. Betsy dead for 50. They have an overlap of timing to set an objective off and secure their own fate here. The problem is, bot lane, inhibitor is still down. The Elder Drake looks like the first objective they want to go for, rather than that Baron in 10 seconds. It will augment the mountains and make it easier to do the Baron, but that will, of course, have bought time for Betsy. Caps taken quite low.
Yeah, assuming Caps lives, that's what they want, but Maxlore was chasing him down through the Bola strike on, and now in comes Phaxi. They get the secure on the Elder Dragon, but Redemption comes through. Can ROCCAT fight this one out? The answer, it looks like no. They've got to bail out. Hjarnan is caught on a hook. Phaxi, he's able to escape with a pocket pistol, and now Hjarnan's caught and shut down by Broxah. Wadid being chased away. Fnatic, they're losing their base in the process, even though they're winning the fight.
Yeah, and ROCCAT right now, they're just trying to buy time, but they cannot do enough. That Nexus tower is likely to fall with two super minions. That 2 super minions is enough to take it down. Fnatic get Elder Drake. They lose 2 Nexus turrets for it. ROCCAT are throwing this game into a messy point. Throwing is not the right word. ROCCAT are not throwing this game. I was saying they're putting the game in a messy situation.
I mean, they've tossed it up in the air, it looks like, for a moment. Fnatic, they traded so much there just to get the fight win.
I said the word without thinking of the connotations.
Sometimes it's too simple. Here we go. Okay, hold on a minute.
Forget about my casting.
There's
We're going
a flank.
into TP.
Yeah, Fnatic, they're looking for the Baron right now. Nice diversion. I love it, Stress. Fnatic are on top of Baron. There is a ward that is not going to see a thing because there's a control ward from Fnatic in this pit. No reaction from ROCCAT in time. Betsy is preoccupied by pushing down the mid. Fnatic have got it.
Yeah, double mountain plus Elder means a fast Baron, and Betsy on this one taking advantage of a pushing mid lane wave, shoves out mid. They know bot had been shoving as well. This was the fight around Elder. Remember, of course, Elder is going to empower a lot of Fnatic's fighting prowess here as well, and the numbers were still in their advantage. So ROCCAT throw a lot at this Elder, trying to make sure they can secure it or at least buy time in the bot lane. Hjarnan gets hooked up because Wadid is desperately trying to save Phaxi's life after he drops low. So the damage runs out for ROCCAT. And now that was all about stalling, all about buying as much time. Whew, we're going to a bit of a crazy moment in this game.
40 minutes on the clock. It feels like it could have been a long game, and it already is a long game. And Fnatic, what can they do with Baron, with Elder Drake? Looks like it's just close to expiring here. Let's see. They're on top of a tower, easy to take down as it was pretty much already knocked over. And can ROCCAT stem the onslaught? There are no Nexus turrets for this Fnatic team. If ROCCAT can win a fight, it could be all over. The curtain call is up. Betsy is looking to go in, but he can't find an opening. Fnatic are trying to march through. They've got Baron empowered Canyon minion, but not a whole lot else.
Oh, ROCCAT, they're trying to look for this fight. Betsy gets locked down by Nautilus.
Yes, he does. There's damage on him right now. There's still a lot from Caps, who's getting his ignite in a few more seconds.
They need to... Oh, Betsy used his ultimate in that exchange. Betsy needs time to regroup a lot of his health here. This tower will end up falling for Fnatic. The cannon alone, is it enough? Yes, it is. Okay, woo. Fnatic just trying to hold ROCCAT in this lane.
It's a game of inches right now. Okay, Caps gets chunked a little bit. He backs off. Now that is going to be a quick inhibitor. That is what Double Mountain and an Elder Drake will do for you. Elder's worn off by now, but Fnatic, they're looking to keep on moving, churn and burn right to the next inhibitor.
There is a play. There is a possible play, Pyra, in the bot lane. There is a trinket ward if Phaxi wanted to all in. If ROCCAT could stop Fnatic's recall, which they can't because it's empowered. The backdoor play,
that was anticlimactic.
We've got to be careful of at all times for Fnatic. Losing both Nexus towers means Kled can charge his way through the base. That ward is now dead, so it is not right now this play shall be made.
If we place another one, we'll see.
The same happens with Wadid. Like, think about it, Abyssal Voyage dragged somebody into the base. Maybe you can get that. Obviously, they do have to go through Inhibitor and then Nexus, but...
I mean, there's no Nexus turrets. That gets a hell of a lot easier. You want to pull the back door. Fnatic, though, they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink up towards the top side now, with the fake LeBlanc being pinged out by Phaxi on the bottom, and it's a standoff in the jungle.
Yep. Yeah, Maxlore and sOAZ.
Ceasefire broken.
Warning shot.
Warning Bola. And sOAZ throws a hook. It doesn't land on Betsy. He's looking for a flank, but that's another tower. In comes Maxlore around the side. Mr. Kled's wild ride, and Betsy's exhausted on. Caps is hopping out. But he held everything. Let's see if they can do it. They turn for Caps, but he goes golden in the moment, and Betsy is going to get taken down by Rekkles, while the rest of ROCCAT were scrambling to get out of there. This has gone horribly, horribly wrong, and Fnatic are sensing the game win that they've won it all along. 42 minutes in, Broxah takes Phaxi. The curtain call's open, but it might be curtains for ROCCAT.
Betsy didn't pool. He didn't get damage down onto Rekkles. Rekkles kite back. took out Betsy. Fnatic, it was a little rough, but they've ended up taking game 1.
Rocky road for this Fnatic team, but they certainly have. It is 1 kill, 2 kills, 3 kills. That's all they need. Just pop the Guardian Angels and get rid of the Tahm Kench already. It's all Nexus. Fnatic will take game number 1.
Ooh, sigh of relief from Fnatic. They had control.
And then they lost it.
Entire early game, and then they tried Baron. It went back and forth. Whew. This series is closer than a lot of people would give it credit.
Oh, I know. And ROCCAT, they have been riding a big tide of momentum over the past week. It had been a long time since that team had had 2 big wins, 2 series wins. And in all honesty, it was definitely their game for a time. And we'll have to see. They got to go back to the drawing board for game 2.
Yeah, got to go back to the drawing board. I wonder whether that Vlad will be taken off the table. I think that is a real sticking point for teams that are able to drag it later on in the game. I mean, one error at the end out of ROCCAT when it comes to that team fight, Betsy ends up dying, didn't get his impact on that fight, and maybe if that fight goes a different way with the pool, maybe it ends differently, but Fnatic secure it. They were able to retake control of the game with that Elder Drake play after catching Betsy in the mid lane. Yeah,
it was a big play up, though, for Fnatic, and honestly, seriously impressive for them so far. See if they can keep that one rolling for game 2.
See if they can.
Absolutely. All right, with that, though, Fnatic, they fired the first shot here in their best of 3 over ROCCAT. So let's head back over to the analyst desk and take a closer look at how it happened.
Thank you so much. Pyra, I had a jolly good time watching this game also because of the company, but I thought it was quite entertaining. It's
great company.
Up and down as well.
I am great company.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I just enjoy my own company. But very up and down game, and I do want to start with the LeBlanc pick. I know you didn't know the answer, so you asked Twitter about it, but hugely nerfed in this patch, of course, for LeBlanc on our W. So why do you think the pick came out? And is this again like a sign of, not catching up to the patch, or did we see some use for it in the game?
I mean, one of the things about Vladimir in the past was that his early game was actually pretty weak. He struggled to push in lane, and LeBlanc actually used to be a really good pick because of how easily he could punish. But then when the changes came to Vlad and he had a bit more wave clear, that actually made the matchup harder for LeBlanc to be able to trade into things. And especially with the recent nerfs, there are a lot of question
80% damage
marks.
to minions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, you have wave clear, but relative to Vladimir, even still, it's not as strong, right? So it's definitely a bit of a gamble because you are relying on Caps to either get ahead or at the very least roam. You're looking to either make plays topside to try and shut down the Kled, or you're looking to try and shut down the bottom lane of ROCCAT with the Jhin and Tahm Kench, which you should be able to abuse with the pushing Ezreal and Karma.
Yeah, I think Fnatic was maybe scared that they were going to end up playing versus a 1-3-1 comp without an answer on a side lane, and then LeBlanc does work. I think she needs to get the lane win pre-Negaturn cloak, because then it's really easy for Vladimir to start scaling. We saw in the mid-game team fights, Caps could not find any opening in any of these fights, and Vladimir kind of popped off. So it's definitely a risky pick. Might be comfort. It's an okay, excusable pick, but I really didn't like it that much myself.
Yeah, and maybe now that they tried it, they are not going to go back to it again. Yeah. However, I do want to zone in on the early game, as we talked about Broxah's early game influence. And once again, he was running circles around the jungle.
I mean, he does the Raptor start really well. He goes into red, and he really punishes it, what we call like the Korean clear, where you go one side of the jungle to the other. He steals blue buff, but then here he adapts well. Greedy that he also takes the Grump. Goes in, he just smote his blue buff, by the way, in a smite battle with Maxlore. Maxlore made the mistake of actually doing Scuttle Crab. You see it dead on the floor right there. Then he invaded without smite. So Broxah got that, he got the Raptors, came back for Raptors. Maybe this is the same Raptors? I think this actually is.
Raptors.
The same Raptors. He went back in time, went back again. But more importantly here, he won the blue buff battle, and he tilted Maxlore so hard that, like, I mean, what is he doing? Like, Maxlore, stop! And then he does that.
Broxah did end up with 85% of his team's gold at 15 minutes and all of the kills. Might that be why the transition into the mid-game and the snowball or the closing out took a turn for the worse for Fnatic?
Well, I mean, I think we have to praise Fnatic with their use of the lead, because even though Caps wasn't dominant in the mid lane, we actually saw the Nautilus going even with the Kled up top, which is exactly what Fnatic want, to counter the 1-3-1 being set up from ROCCAT, and the bottom lane they had a pretty significant lead. So with Broxah having so much control over the jungle, it actually made them so much easier to set up for objectives and actually push into the base.
Right?
Well, no. What I'm thinking of is these tier 1, tier 2 towers, which Fnatic were actually very good at.
But I'm thinking about Baron.
Yeah, but when it did come to the Baron, Fnatic, they relied on it a little bit too much to actually close out the game.
They just did a bunch of 50-50 Barons where they constantly had to peel off. And there was more side lane pressure. I think ROCCAT was more aware of their side lanes than Fnatic. So their answer to match the 1-3-1 champion they ended up grouping with very often, and these were very ill-advised Barons. I think really props to ROCCAT to really use the Jhin ultimate to turn.
Yeah.
But right now, there's Kled pressuring in the bottom lane, so Fnatic are on a timer. And you can even say, like, why, like, does Kled come in this early sometimes? Probably because of the 4K Baron HP. And then they get Fnatic off, and just watch this fighter. Like, follow Caps. He's on 40% right now. He's gonna walk up. He's gonna just, like, get hit by Betsy in the face. Oh, no, that hurts. He goes back out, jumps in, finds out he's LeBlanc with no damage, jumps out, and he's dead. Like, it's so tragic to see this, and at this point, ROCCAT can just close the game if they play, like, clean.
But for all that we are ragging on Caps, the LeBlanc pick and the damage, one of his 2 kills, his second kill, was picking off Vladimir in the mid lane, almost solo, which nets Fnatic, then the Elder Dragon and the Baron, and maybe by extension the game.
So it was a good pick all along, obviously based on that decision, though.
No, but I think with the information
I think you can defend the pick a tiny bit in terms of habit. Well, not that much, like somewhat. But the problem is, I think ROCCAT should have goes here. They're just tunneling into a choke here. Like they're really over chasing, and they're giving Fnatic a much better team fight. The Caps can also weave in and out. If ROCCAT just kind of defend the entrance of this Dragon Pit, it's an entirely different fight. I do like how resilient Fnatic was in the team fights. Their backline was kiting back and forth very well. They were really making use of this fervor Ezreal. Like Rekkles was doing tons of damage in the backline with the fervor scaling, compared to the Warlord Jhin. Yes, you have lifesteal, but it doesn't help you in the offensive department. And
we're ragging on a lot about this LeBlanc pick, but when we look at LeBlanc as a whole, we have to praise a lot of what they did well, and a lot of that did come off the back of Broxah. As a team, they seem to be playing well. As a unit in particular, people weren't getting caught out of position. I still feel that even with the recent struggles that we have been hearing about, they seem to be performing well as an individual unit.
Yeah, and I also think that with the information that they had in the game, oops, this LeBlanc actually does no damage at all. Still, Caps found the opening, right? So you gotta commend that.
Of course, like Fnatic, they were. But the problem I have is when I see a team play this compact on the map, it means that there's very little shot calling. It's just like kind of group for objectives. It's the same panic style Origin had going on, and a team of Fnatic with quite a few veterans in there should be able to keep the map open and not leave windows for a team like ROCCAT to fight back, because ROCCAT have been looking really, really subpar this season. Hopefully this is a good morale boost. We get a more proactive pick on Caps, like something that can play forward, play with more aggression, and then I think we'll see a different Fnatic in game 2.
Right, a good start at least with a win, so let's see how they can build off that for Fnatic. Coming up after the break, we will see if ROCCAT can fight back in game 2 against the Fnatic squad. Stick around.
Now sOAZ gets found out there. Betsy calls it mid. Emo Plague on 2. He's locked up under tower. The timing on the ult from Broxah secures him a 3rd kill. Jump on Rekkles. He's walking away inch by inch. Hjarnan can't get him. It's a heal. But Wadid picks up sOAZ at the same time. There goes Hjarnan with a flourish, and Wadid to the back line, flashing back away. If Maxlore can't finish him as Betsy gets sOAZ, this is a fight on several fronts. Rekkles back to the safety of his tower. Fnatic are melting though as Broxah has to flash away. That's ROCCAT clearing up 3. Redemption comes in, there's another one for ROCCAT, and Phaxi goes in for a wild ride. The results in the kill onto Rekkles, and now they keep on chasing. Oh, Betsy, no, he's got himself a redemption. He's not out of there, but Nautilus knocks him off. That finishes the job. Just pop the Guardian Angels and get rid of the Tahm Kench already. It's all Nexus. Fnatic will take